Thank you, everyone, and welcome to our third and final citywide community forum as part of our engagement regarding the search and the hire of the next Chancellor of DC Public Schools. Go ahead and please grab your seat. Make sure you're seated at a table with some other folks, because we're going to have some exciting conversation and discussions, and most of our conversation will be at our tables this evening. So we're going to actually probably ask that we're going to come around and help consolidate some of the tables. We anticipate some folks will continue to make their way in, but we might come around and move a few of you to the table to make sure that you have the opportunity to have a robust conversation. Thank you for joining us at Brookland Middle School today. Thank you to Brookland for hosting us this evening. Those who I have not met, my name is Anna Smith, and I have the privilege of serving as our interim Deputy Mayor for Education. And so my job tonight is to help kick off the conversation, but the majority of the time will be spent in conversation at your tables. Every table has a facilitator. Facilitators, raise your hand and make sure that folks know who you are. You all have plenty of time to do introductions. But the bulk of our conversation will be spent in facilitated conversations at our table. But before we jump in, I want to give us a little bit of background information and overview of what brings us here tonight, the importance of what we hope to learn from tonight, and how we will take this information and use it moving forward. I'm going to go through it quickly. But I want to just give a plug. All of this information, our notes from previous engagements, the overview of the process, our committee, and all of those can be found at ourschools.dc.gov. So I encourage you to go and use that resource. There's lots of information there. And any outstanding questions you might have or anything that doesn't get answered, on the back of a sheet that you have is a survey where you'll be able to capture any outstanding questions you might have. We would also encourage you to not just only keep track of those questions there, but to email us at ourschools@dc.gov. I'll make a plug for these again, but we're going to spend our time just giving you an overview of what we're doing this evening, take some time in our conversations at our tables, and then hear from everyone about their discussions. So the goals for tonight are really to understand where we are in this moment of time. So I'm going to give you a very quick snapshot of where we are and why the search for the next Chancellor for DCPS is incredibly important at this unique moment in time. So, as many of you know, and as we've heard in our previous two forums, through focus groups with educators, through an online survey, there are a lot of things that are going very well in our schools, and there are a lot of opportunities and areas for continued improvement and growth. We know that we are seeing improved student achievement for all of our students, that we are seeing student satisfaction continue to increase, but equally we're seeing persistent gaps in educational attainment in our schools that are not acceptable. So this is a snapshot of where DCPS is, and the other resource I would point you to is on your tables, everyone has a copy of the DCPS strategic plan. Which also tells you a little bit more about some of the goals and priorities that DCPS is currently working towards. Now, a question we've gotten a number of times is, what does the Chancellor even do? And this is important as we think about the conversation that we're going to be asking of you. Two big questions that we hope to better understand based on your input and feedback. And one of them is, what does the mayor need to prioritize as she selects the next Chancellor of DC Public Schools? What are the characteristics, qualities, and experiences that you think she should be interviewing and searching for that we want to prioritize? And so when we think about the role of the Chancellor is providing leadership for the thousands of students in our schools, the educators, the principals, guiding instruction every single day. They're setting the vision, setting the direction for DC Public Schools, which is serving about 50% of our students in public education. They're also managing, right? Executing, delivering, making sure we have processes and systems in place to deliver on our aspirations, to best utilize the resources and curricula to make sure that we are continuously on track for outcomes for our students. And then finally, as many of you all are very well aware, and we are appreciative of you being here tonight, the Chancellor is also engaged in a lot of conversation, engaging with parents and families and community members, leveraging partners to make sure that we are utilizing all the resources possible in our schools. And our community members, our families are an incredible resource. So those are a few things when we think about what it takes to be a chancellor, and you're going to spend more time discussing that at your tables. So an overview of the chancellor search process. So where we are in the process is as part of our citywide community engagement. Back in June, the mayor announced that she established the Our Schools Leadership Committee of a number of leaders, parents, educators, individuals who would help us, advise us on how we're going to engage, how are we going to make sure we are as robust and representative as possible in understanding the needs and desires of the community. And ultimately, this group will be responsible for helping to synthesize, understand, and ultimately create a final recommendation to the mayor regarding what we believe are the most important things that DCPS needs to focus on in the coming years. What are the priorities that the community believes we need the next chancellor to focus on? And then what are the skills and experiences that we think the chancellor will need to be able to deliver those? So we are very pleased to be able to welcome a number of our committee members. They have joined us at all of our community forums, and we have a handful of them here today. I'd love for them to stand up and just wave, and I can acknowledge them. In particular, we are joined by our two co-chairs of the committee, Dr. Charlene Drew Jarvis, Sylvia Burwell. We're also joined by a couple of folks who are parents and also have other hats that they wear, Jeannie Lee and Rosa Carrillo. I think that's it for right now. But they are participating in the conversations. They are here to learn, to hear from all of you, not just at their own tables, but when we do our readouts at the end of the conversation, they're here to just hear with their own ears what are the things that people are saying that they want to make sure they understand as they're developing this final report. And so finally, also as part of the search process, I'd love to find my colleague David Jones from the Mayor's Office of Talent and Appointments. So the third prong of all of this is a search, an official search process for the executive that the Mayor's Office of Talent and Appointments is leading. And I'll welcome David Jones to give a quick plug on that.
So welcome. My name is David Jones. I serve as the Associate Director in the Mayor's Office of Talent and Appointments. And as Anna mentioned, I would like to welcome our committee members. So one thing that I want to iterate to you guys tonight is our website. It is ourschools.dc.gov. This is the central hub where you can find everything related to the Chancellor search. So please, if you know someone who is interested in applying to be our next Chancellor, or someone who you would like to nominate and throw their name in the hat, please direct them to our website. Again, that is ourschools.dc.gov, or you can email ourschools@dc.gov. Again, this is the central place to find everything related to the next Chancellor search, and we look forward to your feedback. So as I walk around today, I'm excited to hear your ideas and your feedback related to the search for the next Chancellor. So again, my name is David Jones. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. And again, thank you so much to our community, our residents, and our stakeholders for your input and your attendance tonight. So thank you.
Great. So also what can be found, I know this is probably very small font, is an overview of the committee meetings that have helped advise on the engagement, the committee meetings that will be upcoming to take away and listen to all of the information that we've gathered, to have a robust discussion, to help us create the final report that will be transmitted to the mayor. This timeline can be found on our website, and don't worry, I will gladly share that again with you later, but just for your reference, we announced in July, and we are hoping to deliver the final recommendations to the mayor from all of our engagement by the end of October. So, what we're going to spend our time doing, and I'm going to stop talking and let our facilitators really take it away from here, is do a few things. You're going to go around and introduce yourselves. Who are the people at your table? What perspective are they coming from? Are they a parent? Are they a grandparent? We care most about to identify the priorities that we think are most important in the Chancellor, as well as the priorities that we think DCPS needs to focus on. And then to listen and hear from your colleagues at the table to understand what's important to them. Because ultimately, you at your tables are going to take some time to identify the top three characteristics of a chancellor and the top 3 priorities for DC Public Schools. So individually, you'll think about your own, and then you'll have a dialogue to get to the top 3 from your table. We found that this opportunity to engage back and forth and to hear differing opinions has developed and enabled really robust, thoughtful conversation. And so your facilitators are prepared and will be able to help us walk through those conversations. I'm going to give us a couple time checks, and we're going to start with really opening the conversation to share a little bit about where you are. We know that this past year has been a challenging one for DC Public Schools. We've had a couple of opportunities to understand the things that haven't been working as well as we believe that they need to for us to deliver for our students. And so we want to just start with a couple guiding questions that your facilitators will walk you through. I'm going to give us a time check. We're going to have about 45 minutes total for the conversation. I'll give you a couple check-ins to keep us on track. And then at the end of the conversation, you need to select one person from your table who's going to share out what is the summary of the top 3 things that you think are important for the chancellor, top 3 things we think are priorities for DC Public Schools, and we're going to have the opportunity to hear from all of our tables as part of our share out. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to turn it over to our fantastic facilitators, and I will come back with us shortly. Thank you. This is your 10-minute warning. Oh, I see visualizations and organizing of their thoughts. 10 minutes, and then we're going to begin our share out of the priorities that our tables have identified and the qualities that we want to hear. You have 10 minutes of discussion at your tables. I really hate to break up the conversation, but an important part of the discussion, an important part of the opportunity to get this engagement and to bring all of your voices together is to make sure that we are hearing from all of you, that our school's leadership committee members that are here tonight are hearing from you, and that we have the opportunity to share the conversation that happened at each table. And as someone who jumped around and heard from a few of them, there were some really robust conversations, and folks are landing in very different places, and so I'm excited to hear. So we're going to try to hold ourselves to like 2 minutes per response. Tell us the top 3 things in both of the questions that we asked, and then we'll go back and forth. Raman will get us started, and we'll make sure we get around the room, and then I'll close us out. And please introduce yourself. Tell us your name. Stand up and speak loudly into the microphone. We are recording.
Good evening. My name is Heather Harding. I'm a Ward 5 resident and a parent of 2 school-age children. So I'll try to capture in 2 minutes what we discussed. So around the first activity, we feel like equity is really important, and that the other ones kind of more fall together for us in that, you know, you have to engage families. They actually create the demand and the shape of what equity concerns are, and that, of course, you have to do the whole child work through excellent schools, and the engagement around families also has to include the community. So thinking about schools as just the central feature of community building. And we talked about empowering people, but that was sort of foundational, and it didn't really come up a lot in our conversation. So that was that part. We talked a little bit also in this area around the importance of trust among all these stakeholders, and that's really something that's important coming out of the last round. And then around the qualities for Chancellor, we came up with a short list. There was mostly consensus, but we weren't totally there. We wanted a bridge builder, somebody who was good and relatable and could deal with diverse populations. We want someone who is maybe really good on secondary schools, middle and high schools. We want someone who's creative, and we want somebody who knows DC, who knows the history and the context or has a great willingness to learn it quickly. And then the other thing that came up, I'm not sure there was complete consensus, but I think it's worth mentioning because these were good words, a tenacious, fierce advocate for the system. And that this has to do with the fact that we do have two sectors, and so DCPS also deserves a strong leader to carry that through. Does that get it?
Bravo, way
Thank
to
you.
get us kicked off. Thank you. All right, let's see which other table we're going to go to next. Why don't we start over here in this other corner? This has been a rowdy, rambunctious group over here. Mr. Branch, Miss Olivia. Who is our reporter? Introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Rajan. I'm a parent in DC. So we're going to start with the top category. The next DCPS Chancellor should focus on such. So concerns in funding, where funding is coming from, diversity issues in school, and I'm going to add in de facto segregation, making teachers feel supported, addressing the opportunity and achievement gap, and having the opportunity to visit schools during the interview process. Okay, and then we're going on to the next one. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the experience you believe the mayor should consider in her selection of the DCPS chancellor. To have a CEO mentality, have a DCPS/urban school experience, which I think was mentioned previously, communicating issues to all factions of the city, gathering necessary support systems for students, having real-world experience in delivering results in a school system with an emphasis on low-performing students.
Thank you. All right, Raman, on to our next group. Hearing some diversity of perspectives, some aligned perspectives.
Who's our reporter here at this table?
Hi, my name is Eleni Lawrence. I'm a parent. I'm going to say we're going to go pretty quickly here because we spent all of our time pretty much talking, completing the first activity, and spent a really long time specifically discussing equity and what that means for us in this diversity where in some places we have a lot, in some places we don't, and we spent an immense amount of time discussing this issue of equity. Also, second priority being excellent schools, using the data points that we already collect to discuss that even more, and definitely engaging families and making sure that we're doing that in a very meaningful way and reaching out to all the families that our schools work with.
Great, thank you so much. And having been part of that conversation, it was very meaty. And so you did justice to your table in calling that out. All right, this table, who's our reporter? Is that you?
Let me find the good angle. Hi everyone, I am Sophia Bryan. I'm actually a visitor from Jamaica. I'm a U.S. State Department fellow, and so it's a great opportunity to contribute to this process. So I will start with the shortest list first, being what the priorities should be for the strategic plan. And we are of the view that the emphasis should be on equity, empowering our people, engaging families with a view of ensuring excellent schools. However, our group has a caveat being we are of the view that how these things are quantified, equity, empowering the child, empowering our people, and engaging families, what does each of these things mean? And we think that more thought needs to go into that, right? So, as it relates to the characteristics of our new chancellor, this one, yeah. All right, so we had a long discussion. It was so good. All right, so we're of the view that The new chancellor needs to understand how to effectively develop principals and teachers. That's key. This person must have a track record of success as either a teacher or a principal, and of course must have a strong professional background as a leader. And of course, as was said before, this person must have a deep connection to DC and must be committed to equitable outcomes throughout their tenureship. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Robin, who's next?
Lucky table 10.
And good evening, everyone. I'm Adrian Jordan, a Ward 5 resident and parent, hoping to adequately say what we discussed here at table number 10. Of the top priorities we think the Chancellor should most focus on, the top I think we all agreed on was equity. Equity in resources, equity in results, and equity in school quality so that we have a completely equitable and robust system. The other thing was family engagement, making sure that families feel valued, making sure that they are included, making sure that the facilities are open and the input of the DCPS parents are valued and taken into account. And lastly, we wanted that person to, and the screen was about to go dead, have, what is this? Power and political support advocating for DCPS. We want this person to be a fierce booster for DCPS public schools, and so that regains the trust of the system. And if we move on to the qualities that we think they should possess, number one, I think almost all of us said this was experience leading an urban system. DC is very diverse, so we want someone who can come in and has experience in a diverse population such as the district. Trustworthy. There's been some knocks on the system and with our chancellor, so whoever comes in needs to inspire confidence and rekindle the trust that was once here in DCPS. And then leadership, and that's just all encompassing. They have to have leadership running the system, inspire the teachers, inspire parents, and also leadership in the city, being shown as an independent voice for all the students and stakeholders at DCPS.
Great. Thank you so much, Adrian. All right. Next up is Zachary.
Hi, everybody. It's Zachary Parker. In the daytime, I'm an educator with the Achievement Network that works alongside school leaders with DCPS. I'm also running for the Ward 5 seat on the... Well, just introducing who I am. Sorry about that. That is my total person. But we, too, had a deep ongoing conversation about equity, so I'm happy to report and hear that at various tables. One thing that we had discussed in terms of priorities was excellent schools. We had different perspectives of what that exactly meant, but in essence that a system leader can meet the various needs of schools, create collaborations across schools, as well as move away from such an emphasis on test scores and perhaps focus on a school quality indicator. And there are some examples, for instance, at Wilson where they are balancing both test scores and the school quality indicator, for example. We also mentioned educating the whole child, engaging families, focusing on mental health, identifying the specific needs of each child. And when we say each, again, that is an emphasis on equity. And then lastly, empowering our people, thinking about the teachers and leaders in our schools, building collaborative cultures, promoting equity, and meeting the needs of each school community through a focus on deepening content knowledge for both teachers and leaders. Lastly, in terms of characteristics, we wanted a system leader that was a professional educator that had an experience as both a teacher and a school leader, experience in urban education, in particular improving a school or a system, not just being a system leader, as well as a strategic thinker and a visionary, being able to think across systems and building connections and collaborations with other partners, ability to inspire staff across the city that has probably suffered from the lack of support or at least a feeling of a lack of support. And then lastly, leadership, again, building collaborations and coalitions with a variety of partners. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. All right, Robin, who's next? Last couple ones here, and then we will wrap it up.
Hi, my name is Kathy Riley, and I work with SHAPE, the Senior High Alliance of Principals, Parents, and Educators, and the Ward for Education Alliance. We put as our top policy directive, we were kind of trying to look at what was most urgent, And so we want excellence across the system with educators, but we feel a sense of urgency with our secondary schools, with our middle and high schools. So we want the person to come in to definitely have experience at secondary and to really give some focus and support to that level. Secondly, we want a culture of safety and trust. So we want, as a policy for this new person, we feel this can cover a lot of things. It's both emotional safety, it's the kids feeling physically safe, it's the staff feeling like they're not going to lose their jobs if somebody gets a low test score. It's a sense that we're all about educating the whole children, and we're going to treat everybody, we're going to create safe space to learn, because you really don't learn or teach under fear. And third, like many others, we put equity, and we kind of couple that with a sense of looking, allowing more individuation between the schools, looking at ways we can reward creativity and engage different communities in what they need and being able to ask for and get what they need. We want it to be equal, but we want it to be tailored to what that community needs with the input of that community. In terms of the characteristics we'd like to see in our chancellor, right off the bat, first thing was integrity, transparency, in a personal, we want to feel this person we can trust, and that they've got our back and we'll have their back then. We want someone who engages, listens, hears, and responds to both the community, to their staff downtown, and to the staff in the schools. So this is someone that's going to come in not with a top-down approach, but with the sense they're going to really work with this community. And thirdly, we want somebody with experience in public schools and with diversity. We didn't narrow it down to urban because we realized a lot of rural systems actually have some things in common with us. We talked a little bit about whether they should be from within the system or come from outside. And we kind of felt like we want the person to have a wide range of experiences to inform what they're going to do here in DC. So that was what would inform it, that they can't just have been in one place doing one thing. They have to come with a wide base. And we want them to invest in, support, be a champion for DCPS, and be a catalyst for the staff, the teachers, and for all of us. So there, Anna, you've got a tall
Thank
order,
you.
and you do too, Charlene and Sylvia, but we feel like you can come through
I
for
was
us.
just going to say, I was just going to say, we have our final two tables. I'm going to make sure that they have the opportunity. Go ahead. And then we will summarize and close out some of our final thoughts.
Hi, I'm Cassandra Ogren. I'm a Ward 4 parent and volunteer with DC Language Immersion Project, which advocates for expanding dual language and bilingual opportunities throughout DC schools. So we had a really good initial conversation talking about some issues, including expanding dual language, including making sure that teachers have the resources they need and don't have to spend their own money to outfit their classrooms. Around issues of equity and differences in resources amongst schools and transparency. As we got into the activity looking at the top priorities, we put promote equity first because we felt like that was really overarching and sort of part of everything that a chancellor would do. We followed that with empowering people and really placed a lot of emphasis on the importance of ensuring that we have really ongoing leadership, people who are committed to DCPS in leadership, teachers, administrators in the long term, and having a chancellor who similarly is here for the long haul, who doesn't come for a year or two and then take off to some other school district. And then our third was educate the whole child, and we talked about this a lot because we felt like that and engaging families are really closely connected in a lot of ways, but we ultimately felt like educating the whole child. We talked earlier about the importance of social emotional learning and what DCPS is doing on that as being something positive. So those were kind of our top three as far as the priorities. As we got into the top qualities, there were a lot more of those to go through. We started with leadership because we felt like that encompassed a lot and was really a fundamental component. there were a number of different sort of similar categories around like urban education, professional educator. We went with instructional background. We felt like, I don't know, we felt that anyone who would be even considered like qualified to work in DC would have to have some experience in an urban educational system. But we thought someone who's been in the classroom and who's been through familiarity with all years of school from elementary through middle school and secondary was important. We felt like effective communicator covered a lot of the territory around community engagement and public relations. We thought that was important to meet parents where they're at, to communicate effectively to all languages and demographics. Strategic thinker was our next one, as far as thinking really long-term about the future of DCPS. An ability to inspire staff, similarly to how we placed a priority on empowering people as being really important to, to ensure retention of really high-quality, inspired staff throughout DCPS.
Fantastic. All right, table 10. Oh, wait, no.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Nikki Davis from Ward 5. I'm a Brookland resident and a co-parent. And my partner was not that interested, so it's very short. The first priorities that we had is working knowledge of working with the truth, because we feel that anybody who's willing to get into the narrative of everybody's narrative, nobody will be shut down, nobody will be not included, and that all narratives are included. And I find that is the most important, and that deals with that equity piece. Because I think once you get everybody's narrative on there, all humans naturally will get to equity. Inclusiveness, we heard that a lot. That mainly includes, and we have this problem in Brookland, is parents have to have access to the principals, have to have access to the chancellor. So whatever we're doing, make sure that that line is really, really clear and we're all inclusive because we're all stakeholders, especially since we're the taxpayers. So we have to have the power base have inclusion. And then you and I have talked about this a lot, I think cultural competency, not just understanding diversity, but actually being competent in diversity and in cultural, particularly because our lowest functioning and performing schools are black and poor and traumatized. And if they don't know about being black, and they don't know about being poor, and they don't know about trauma and violence, then I don't even want them in the list. Because that's the only thing, is we have to lift our lowest up to get the equity and get the things. And so the priorities that I had for the qualities is someone who knows DC, we talked about that, who lives in DC, because that means whatever they say they have to live with, and who's a graduate of DC public schools. I love that they have wide variety. I don't care if they go to live off in Paris, but they must have succeeded in a DC public school, and I think that's the only way we're going to work out of where we are now. And then, this was very important to me, is willing to submit to a very creative and in-depth public engagement before final hire. Because I've been on boards where we picked someone fabulous who has the best resume, everything. It makes the good rounds for the in people, but they were disastrous once we got them hired. So I would love it if this person is used to engaging in DC, engaging in our diversity, engaging in our different cultures, and everyone can have a taste of them before they get hired. So thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. All right, I want to be very mindful of time. We are at 8 o'clock, but bravo to all of you. Can we give ourselves a round of applause, please? The depth and nuance and variety of conversations that happened were phenomenal. Please make sure that you take a minute, give us feedback. We welcome your feedback on the back of the sheets that you have. Let us know who you are if you would like, to make sure that we know who was in the room with us this evening. And then I'm just going to point us, such bad teacher, as an elementary school teacher, such bad protocol here, but tell you to do one thing and then try to get your attention on another. But before we wrap, I just want to remind us to stay engaged. So we are in the home stretch of concluding a number of our community engagement forums. We are going to conclude a couple more focus groups with principals and with students to make sure we hear from them directly. And then our school's leadership advisory committee that is rolling up all of these thoughts, synthesizing what do we take away from all of these conversations to tell the mayor matters most. How do we want to her to approach the selection, the interview, the hiring, the decision-making of who our next chancellor will be. That committee is going to take all of this information this evening, and the last two conversations were both recorded. They're available at ourschools.dc.gov. We're going to have a Facebook Live. We will let you know more about that, and we encourage you to tune in. And then reach out to us. We welcome your thoughts, your recommendations, additional feedback you might not have shared, and email us at ourschools@dc.gov. You can see on our website, we've also posted a number of letters and communications we've received from committee members, from council members. That's also available, and we want to share that with you so that you all can see all of the information that's being gathered. So we are transparent in understanding the variety of positive, critical, suggested feedback that we are receiving through this process. And then finally, I would be remiss if I didn't also say follow us on Instagram, Twitter, we're on, and then the mayor's Facebook page. We've got lots of information. Stay engaged. Have a great evening. Stay safe during the hurricane or whatever weather we're going to get this weekend, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.